Okay, this is a great safety story. So at the Albany Stratton VA provider, Dr. Stacy Farmer, she is a psychologist who works at the Glens Falls CBOC and also at the Clifton Park CBOC. She started clinical work with a combat married veteran at the Glens Falls CBOC. The Veterans Consult identified treatment focus on PTSD and depression. As clinical assessment continued, the veteran provided that he had been struggling with gender identity for many years and requested specific therapy to process for gender affirming surgery, as he had heard that the VA had recently started to provide gender affirming surgery. Dr. Farmer encouraged the veteran and let him know that she would investigate what services were available. Dr. Farmer contacted the psychology service chief, Dr. Bill Breen, and after much discussion, Dr. Breen identified 2 gaps in the services that we had available here in Albany. First, there was a gap in the information available to our frontline staff about the services available and the process for gender affirming surgery. Dr. Breen worked with our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Steering Committee, including our chairperson, Trish Kidder, to develop a process to address this gap, as well as provide more education to our staff about the services available and the services needed and how to access these. In addition, Dr. Breen identified several staff members who would receive more training and expertise so the Albany Stratton staff could provide this service in the future. Dr. Breen worked with our medical partners in primary care, endocrinology, social work, and administrative staff to more clearly describe our process and services. The second action, in order to provide clinical services as soon as possible to this veteran, Dr. Breen reached out to the clinical services hub in New York Harbor and Dr. Corey Chen. Dr. Chen talked with several providers and identified Dr. Michael Levy to assist with these services. Although this process took several weeks to complete, the veteran was grateful and happy to have continued information from Albany providers about the process and the services. The veteran indicated that he felt supported and encouraged by the Albany staff, even though it took some time to obtain his clinical care. And the alignment with HRO is to always keep the veteran first. Any questions or comments?
All right, Dr. Payne, thanks for the story. Again, I'm reminded of the fact that, when things are brought forward, your staff are so well trained and prepared to go to that next step to ask the question. And that really is the first step, is to ask the question, what is it that we can do as an organization? Interesting that it appears that veteran now has a consult in with Michael Levy.
Mm-hmm.
So it resulted in a consult. And so will he be followed now through how will we follow him here? Will we follow him here with primary care as well as mental health?
So Stacy Farmer she's keeping in contact with him, and she's helping to make sure that he's getting the services he needs through the harbor, but she's also following up with him just to keep in contact as the PACT PCMHI person at Glens Falls.
Great. And so help me to understand, Michael Levy, is he a physician?
So he is a psychologist, and he's through New York Harbor and is just helping to facilitate all of the pieces that need to be in place for the gender affirming surgery. And I think Trish Kidder actually was very instrumental in helping to identify what that process is and how to get all the resources needed.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful story, and now we're educating others here so that they have that. Is there anything that we can do further? Is there a SOP? Is there something that we need to get out to our providers in a more formal? Trish or others?
I know one of the things that they're working on is identifying specific providers here in Albany to be trained in providing the services so that when we partner, with New York Harbor for the actual gender affirming surgery, that we've been able to do our pieces. And I know endocrinology, has staff that are working on that, and primary care has staff that are working on that, and psychology and PCMHI, social work. We wanted to make sure that, we had staff who were able to do our process.
Okay.
So
where is the surgery completed? Do you know where the surgery
I
is done
don't.
at which medical center? Does anyone know?
I think, and I'll speak, because I'm not sure that Trish is on this call, but I
Nope,
don't.
she's today. So there's a work group here that's assembled, and she's leading, which includes all the parts and pieces that Dr.
Yeah.
Payne mentioned.
And I would
don't-
imagine that
believe
this
the
is probably
surgery
surgery
itself will
outside the VA. I'm sorry, Dick, I said,
I believe the surgery itself will actually be done at Sinai.
okay, thank you.
And this is a good example of, we've had other processes like this in the past, specifically bariatric surgery, where the tissue dissection is only a small part of treating the individual. And there is enormous prep work and follow-up work that has nothing to do with the tissue dissection. And that work will largely be done here if this is an Albany patient.
Mhm.
Great. Wonderful. Well, I think that there's a lot to be learned from this. So thank you, Dr. Payne, for sharing.
Thanks.